Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Nonprofit Fundamentals. I'm Adam, joined alongside with April, and today we have a guest. We have Shaun Stanton, Vice President of Employee Benefits at USI, and he's here to talk all things health insurance. So Shaun, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Adam and April, for having me.
So Shaun, can you give like a little quick introduction of yourself and USI so everyone can know who you
Sure.
are and why we're talking health insurance?
All right, awesome. Happy to be here today. My name is Shaun Stanton. I am the Vice President of Employee Benefits at USI. I have about this year, actually, I entered my 19th year of being in the employee benefits space. We are located, our USI office is located out of Toms River, New Jersey. We also have a Florham Park office. I have spent the majority of my career, not all 19 years, helping nonprofits. I currently serve on the board of a private school down in Wall Township as well. And a little bit about USI. So we are the fifth largest privately held insurance brokerage in the country. I handle the benefits side, but we also do have a commercial business side as well as retirement. We have 200 local offices from all around the country. I'm excited to jump into this nonprofit topic today, as employers are struggling with these rising costs and hopefully providing some solutions and insight into what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, this is such a hot topic now. Everyone's getting rate renewals. They have gotten their renewals. Premiums have skyrocketed. And, the one question basically every nonprofit leader has is how do we lower these costs? Um, so with that said, Shaun, so what should nonprofit leaders understand about how health insurance works? Give them a little more background on why those premiums are skyrocketing.
Sure. So, Adam, the system is absolutely broken.
Good way to
From
start.
so let's start out with that. But really, in terms of solutions, Adam, and helping out employers, really the biggest solutions that I can suggest revolve around data and transparency. All right. When I say the system's broken, a lot of nonprofit organizations on this call will be able to relate with having a fully insured program, switching from the major health insurance carriers. So from the Horizon to Blue Cross to Aetna to Cigna, all the different BUCA carriers. The problem is at the end of the day, you're overpaying for health insurance because there are a lot of layered fees associated with that. So there's administrative costs, we have carrier profit, there's additional taxes and fees. And at the end of the day, these employers are stuck in this insanity of not knowing what their renewal is going to come out to be because they don't have any data on their claims and being subject to these large double-digit renewal increases, um, and sometimes receiving it only 45 days out, 30 days out, with little time to make a decision. So the more data that we can receive and start looking at claims, also from a time perspective, the earlier we can get the renewal gives us leverage going into that renewal where we can start really breaking it down and seeing where our healthcare costs are coming from. Adam, I would also hit on education, especially during times of carrier changes, so much uncertainty in the marketplace, with the ability and the challenge to attract and retain employees, especially in the nonprofit space. Education is so important for employees to know about the health insurance, how to utilize it to the best of their advantage, and what to do when sick as well.
And Shaun, I'm sure that a lot of these health insurance challenges happen on both the for-profit and the nonprofit side, but do you see any differences when it comes to nonprofit organizations?
So I want to be clear with the nonprofit and for-profit. They have the for-profit solutions that are being used are still available for nonprofit organizations. And as a matter of fact, I believe that a lot of nonprofits would really benefit from the strategy that some of the for-profits used. That being said, April, it is important to look at the demographics of a nonprofit organization, right? So when I look at nonprofits, I really see the biggest needs for nonprofits are kind of separated into two buckets, right? One of them is from a fundraising standpoint. Obviously, to accomplish their mission, they always need more money and development coming through the door, right? And then the other part of it is from a retention standpoint, right? So a lot of these nonprofits are run by great people, unbelievable employees that are tied to the cause, but there's a constant understaffing in the nonprofit world, right? So that being said, the demographics absolutely play a factor. You also may have an aging population, so older employees, and the whole culture. We know that nonprofits are constantly looking to maintain their staff. So they want to be able, from a benefit standpoint, to be able to put, a great benefit strategy out to their employees so that they can obviously retain that talent as well.
So you mentioned before that for-profits have strategies that nonprofits aren't necessarily using. Can you just elaborate on that?
Sure. So I'm going to, Adam, a little bit later, we'll go into the specifics of the plan design,
Sure.
funding strategies. But there is, like I said, in terms of the marketplace, nonprofits still have, from a broker standpoint or insurance standpoint, they have access to the resources for the same as for-profit organizations would have. Now, there's a big difference, Adam, too, in terms of the capital that a for-profit can put out, right? In the event of having to have a 32% health insurance increase or a 50% increase. Obviously, a for-profit it's much easier for a for-profit to absorb that type of renewal increase than a non-for-profit. I mean, for a nonprofit, that can be devastating.
Yeah.
If they come up with a couple $100,000 renewal increase, they may have to lay off 6 to 8 staff members, which I already said that they're understaffed as well. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So Adam, if I understand your question correctly, were you looking at like what are some of the biggest, when we look at the health insurance increases, you want to kind of look behind the curtain and figure out what are some of the bigger drivers here?
Yeah, no, that's a good place to go. So behind the scenes, what's really driving the costs up? And then, with that said, what should a nonprofit look at? What are 2 or 3 things they should really look at about those driving costs?
Yeah.
Sure, great question. Obviously, now we live in an inflation-packed environment, right? The average person is living paycheck to paycheck, but with the amount of inflation going on, let's be honest, things are a lot more expensive. Even gas at the pump, yesterday was $4.19.
It's going up.
What's behind these health insurance increases is high cost claims, right? So those major diseases, right? The heart attacks, cancers of the world, your big type of claims, those have gotten even more and more expensive. There's been a shift, obviously, within the last 2 years with prescription costs costing more and more of the population looking at these GLP-1s and obesity drugs to start taking. In terms of utilization, employees are actually utilizing the health insurance more, but there's more resources available too as well. So we know that COVID impacted not only us physically, but mentally as well, right? So there has been, for the positive, there's been more mental health resources that have been available. But we do find employees using those more as well. So there's more plan utilization on the mental health side as well. I still think we have a long way to go for that, but those resources are being utilized as well with the plans. And then we always have this constant struggle, right, between the providers and the hospitals arguing back and forth, whether it's Mount Sinai or Meridian Health System, whatever it may be, that fight for who's going to get the bottom dollar and the struggles that go on. So as that happens, the cost of coverage goes up as well. So that's one of the bigger drivers. The second part of your question is, okay, so we kind of feel like we might have a premium increase. What are 2 or 3 things we can look at?
Yeah.
As I started, when I first started talking, it's going to be all about claims, right? So if we can get any type of claims report, so any type of claims experience, one of the things that we do at USI is try to be as proactive as possible. And especially in a self-funded plan, we'll put up a monthly dashboard, which we can start to track your claims and see if over time this could become a high cost claimant, or what can we do either from a wellness perspective or a provider perspective to get the cost down, as low as possible. Funding arrangement is a huge one, right? So a lot of people, like I said, still have these traditional fully insured plans, are overpaying for the health insurance, looking at different funding arrangements. So whether that is, I like to look at things in terms of a pendulum when I talk about the funding arrangements. All the way on the left-hand side, you would have fully insured, which is, your safest, but your most expensive option. Kind of middle of the road, you can start to get some claims data, and there's something called level funded, where actually if your claims run at a surplus, you can actually get a refund back at the end of the year. So we got the most conservative with the fully insured. We get to level funded, and then you can start looking at some of the more of the self-funded plans, right? And start getting into captives and things like that. So there's a variety of different options, but plan design is one of the biggest things we can look at, especially from a cost increase standpoint.
When does self-funding make the most sense?
Great question. So I would say when there's at least 50 employees on plan. So that could be anywhere from 75 to 100 employees, but self-funding starts to make a lot of sense once you have 50 on plan.
Right.
Are there any other alternative plans out there that nonprofits maybe aren't aware of or they underutilized that'd be, good for them to know about?
Yes. So 2 specifically come to mind, and they both start with an H. One of them is a health savings account, right? So that is not only an employer taxed advantage plan where the employer, by offering a high deductible with a health savings account, saves on premium taxes, but it is the only triple taxed advantage plan that an employee can enroll in. So what I mean by that in terms of a triple tax advantage is it comes out pre-tax out of their paycheck. While the money is in the HSA account, it grows tax-free from an investment standpoint. And then as long as they take the money out for medical expenses, that money is not taxed as well. So the health savings account for employers as well as employees is a tremendous resource. Adam, the other one that I've seen that I've used in person is what's called a health reimbursement arrangement that's known as an HRA. And I had a nonprofit organization in Ocean County that was dealing with multiple years of double-digit increases. What we were able to do for them was institute a high deductible health plan, and we were able to supplement that with what's called a health reimbursement arrangement. And what that is employers are able to set a certain amount of money into a bank account, into this health reimbursement arrangement, and employees can use that money for medical expenses. The money we had set aside was to cover employees' out-of-pocket expenses all the way up to their deductible. And we were able to mimic their exact plan design that they had had with the previous carrier, right? So just because the cost of coverage is so high, by instituting something like an HRA, there's a tremendous savings there. And also, any money that is not utilized in that HRA account rolls over year. So you can see the way that employers can get ahead of this cycle.
Mhm.
Could
Uh,
nonprofits do like a hybrid where they offer an HSA, HRA, and then also, fully insured, kind of mix and match, or has to be one or the other?
no, they can mix and match to answer your question. Now, you wouldn't have a traditional like fully insured with a HRA plan, but you
Right.
can have a high deductible with an HSA. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And Adam, as a matter of fact, that's a great point. We we like to like nonprofit organizations should have a few different options available to their employees, right? To just have a PPO plan
Mhm.
or, one plan that it has an extremely high deductible. A lot of times when I sit down with employers, they don't even realize the plans that are in like that they've been previously accepted. And that's a big strategy piece is let's go through what plans you have, see what's available in the marketplace and make the plans fit the need of your employees.
Mhm. Shaun, what percentage of nonprofits do you see taking advantage of those HRAs and HSAs?
That's a great question. I would say 15 to 20%. I would say 20% might even be on the high end on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How does that
April,
compare to the for-profits?
how does that compare with the
With the
for?
for-profit, so nonprofits like 15, 20%. Where are for-profits at?
For profits, that would be, Adam, that's a great question. I don't know the exact
Okay.
percentage on them. I'm just going off my own,
Yeah.
personal experience on that. But like I said, both resources are available regardless, nonprofit or for
Right.
profit.
Right.
It's a tremendous savings vehicle moving to that high deductible with HRA.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds like it could be a good option.
Yes.
Especially with the rising costs.
Mhm. Yeah. All right.
So what trends are you seeing over the next year or two or 3 years that nonprofits really prepare for? Is it more multi-digit renewals, or is there something more positive coming down the line?
I wish I could say it's not going to be double digit increases, but Adam, what I'm seeing is health insurance rates are going to continue to rise. Um, Strategy is going to become more important than ever,
Yeah.
um, especially looking at the self-funded space, um, moving employee groups to self-funded and start to really take a look at the claims, put wellness incentives involved, utilizing the health plans. I see that status quo is not going to work anymore, Adam. So strategy is going to have to be involved. These years of just continuing to take, 27% increases, 40% increases over time, it comes down to either the employer has to pay more or they're going to pass it off to the employees. So, um, you know, strategy, um, looking at employee contributions, plan designs, all of this stuff factors in. But being as proactive as possible. If I had one piece of advice just to take from this session is be as proactive as possible as you can be with your renewal. A lot of employers will renew July 1st
Mhm.
and start looking at this come May 1st. You give yourself a lot more leverage when you start looking at, you know, 6 months out, you start having a pre-renewal meeting. You look at the marketplace. You're able to view your claims in a real dashboard. So you can be proactive and get ahead of, because the longer you wait, the less negotiating power you're going to have with the carriers.
Okay, so all nonprofits out there, get started today.
Yeah. So thank you, Shaun, for your advice there. Really important, I think, what you said about being proactive, looking at your claims and strategizing to look at all of your options. I think all good points that you touched on.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Shaun.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank
Take
you.
care.